Football with friends is fun as hell. My name is Alex Dunlap here with Cody Carpentier on a big Monday edition of the show here on Orange Bloods Live. So pumped to be back here with you on a regular schedule as usual, 6 p.m. weekdays. Back from the Senior Bowl. Cody back from the beach there in Florida. I've spent my day in bureaucratic hell. We'll talk about that after a while, but we have to start out with the news today of Felix Ojo, the story that Jason put up on Orange Bloods a little bit earlier today, sort of took me a little bit by surprise, Cody. And so I'll just go ahead and bring up our first topic of the day here. And that is Felix Ojo really Texas's top OL target for 2026? What about all this 1 in a million talk with Turntine? What about John Turntine?
That was the thought, right? That was always the opening 2026 turn time period. Like that was the thought coming in. And now everything we're hearing is obviously surrounding kind of around Ojo, which I don't think it's not a bad thing. I mean, he's a 6-0 on Rivals. He's the 4th ranked tackle in the country. He's 6'7", 280. I mean, I'm not sure it's a bad thing. It just probably caught a lot of people off guard because it's a different tackle than what they expected that they were going to be going after. But when you do look at the updated Rivals rankings, Turntine's 5, Ojo's 4. So technically, according to Rivals, he's better.
Okay. All right. So here's the quotes from Jason, who caught up with him after, he caught up with him at some point after junior day. Of course, we're talking about Felix Ojo. He is number 28 on the Rivals 100. He is from Mansfield, Lake Ridge. I don't have his height and weight in front of me, but he's tall, lanky, long arms, long levered, skinny, right? Cody, do you know what does he weigh like 275 or something?
I just said it was 6'7", 280.
280. Okay. Sorry. I was so what he said was I'd say that. So this is what he told Jason about his talks with Kyle Flood. He said, I'd say the highlight was really just talking with Coach Flood, seeing where I stand with Texas and with him. Not only that, we have some plans for me in this future if I do decide to come to Texas. He says, I'm a top priority for Texas. Like, I'm probably the number one priority for the offensive line group in the class of 2026 cycle. Not only that, he feels like the opportunity I could get at Texas, just the culture. I'm one of those guys that he needs me at Texas. So he also says it feels great, especially knowing the history that Coach Flood has with offensive linemen, all the guys he's gotten drafted, yada, yada. So, yeah, 6'7", 279 is where he is right now. Other schools that, are courting Felix Ojo are Michigan, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Florida, Oklahoma, SMU. SMU Turntine was actually just there this weekend, along with a couple of other guys. Who's the Texas wide receiver? Who's the 2026 wide receiver from? Is it Chris Stewart?
Yep,
that was there this week at SMU. I don't. We can maybe that's for a separate discussion. If like should Texas worry about SMU at all? Ketchum was. We were talking about that on one of Ketchum's threads on Friday. And somebody asked him, like, where do you put SMU right now on a 1 to 5? 1 being no worry at all about them in recruiting, and 5 being like a DEFCON 5. And Ketchum's like, I put him at a 3. I'm like, a 3? SMU out of 5? I was like, dude, that's like a 3 out of 10 for me.
No, they got money.
I mean.
They're in the ACC. They're not some scrub anymore. Like, they're in the ACC. They made it to the playoff. They openly have money and backing and boosters. They're literally in Dallas. It's like where's the 2 recruiting hubs that Texas is mainly focused on the last 2 decades? Or you could say forever, Dallas and Houston. All right, so this school, imagine if like the University of Houston joined the SEC and all of a sudden had a bunch of donors. Like, Houston would be a worry, because you go into Houston, you take those players, and now those players have the ability to just stay home and play in the SEC or play in the ACC and be in a competitive, and so, maybe not have the blue blood feel, but they're at least in the same opportunities,
I guess I can't put it on a 3 out of 5. Like, I'm never going to worry a 3 out of 5 about SMU. I feel like I feel like Texas should win every head-to-head recruiting battle with SMU.
Sure, sure. I think you're right. I don't think you're wrong in any way. But all it takes is one kid. Think about it, a year ago right now. Think about if they would have. And I wonder what the feel is there because I think Kyson Henderson's committed there right now, who I think is the top kid in the state according to Catcher's Ranks. The last I checked, I think off the top of my dome, he won the MVP award at the Army game a couple weeks ago. But Keelan Russell was committed there as well, right? And then of course Alabama comes in and gets him. Hypothetically, if Keelan Russell, puts pen to paper and then can't decommit from SMU, becomes the number one recruit in the country, what does that do? Does that change your training? If that happens and he stays at SMU and he later becomes the number one recruit in the country, does that change your train of thought? Because at one point he was committed there.
You would like to. I mean, Texas. I don't know. I think the Keelan Russell. I mean, I think Keelan's awesome. But it wasn't ever in the never in the plans for Texas, right?
No, the Texas thing, the Texas part with Keelan Russell is not the point. The point is he's the number one kid in the country. And as if SMU had him and if they were able to keep him, is the thought. Is like, would that change your train of thought of like, is SMU a worry? They just got the number one kid in the country, hypothetically, at one point. Would that change your answer to this?
I mean, Keelan's. I mean, he's really good. Maybe, I don't know. It's I'm just, for me, like I gotta see. I gotta see like Oklahoma or Texas or somebody lose a head to. Really, not even Oklahoma right now. We'll talk about Venables in a minute and stuff. They're in a bad spot. But I would have to see Texas lose a head-to-head battle to him to say, all right, from now on, I'm going to actually worry about all this SMU stuff. But regardless, so SMU is one of the ones that's in there with Felix Ojo. And so to me, you've watched Turntine, you've watched Ojo, you've seen them both. Turntine is not as long, but he's more fire plug, more I kind of think just if you want to just have a guy that could come in and play right off the bat, I think that Turntine is maybe the guy, whereas Ojo, you could see him developing into maybe I mean, he has tools that Turntine doesn't. People always talk about Turntine's arms and stuff like that, the same way that now they're talking about sort of Banks going on to the next level and how he's going to need to play guard. And, some people are saying the same thing about Will Campbell. Well, the transition from high school to college is one where they're saying, well, Turntine, he's probably not going to play guard in college, but he's going to be one of these dudes who eventually is going to be talked about as a guard prospect if he's good enough to play at the NFL level, right? Shorter arms, shorter wingspan. Just the thing about Ojo, though, is whenever we did our analysis on him last week and sort of talked about him, I'm like, man, he moves really well in all 8 directions. You know what I mean? He can move laterally. He can move backward. Really good drop step, really good glide, good power step at all angles. So he already has good feet and coordinated and stuff like that as a guy who clearly is still kind of not string beanie, but he's like, go watch his film and you guys will see what I mean. He looks like a guy that is going to have to put on a bunch of weight. And when he does, if he can keep the same movement abilities and, if he can get coached up by Flood, like he's good with his leverage, he's good with all this stuff. I mean, does he have higher upside? And is he better than Turntine? And can you get Turntine and Ojo? Because people are acting like that's just out the window. It's like you got to choose one or the other. And I would typically say, no, you don't have to do that. Look at the Texas 2024 or 2022 class, right? Where they got Banks and they got Cam Williams and they got DJ Campbell and they got NATO and all these guys, right? I mean, you can get a class with 2 legit kind of crown jewel types. Now, back then, we didn't know it was going to be kind of, Kelvin Banks and Cam Williams. We thought it was going to be Kelvin Banks and DJ Campbell because those were the 2 5-star dudes, right? But you can get 2 5-stars. People are acting like that's completely out the window. Maybe it is now. Like the world's actually a little bit different now than even it was in 2022, whenever guys were getting paid still. What do you think about number one, the upside of Ojo versus Turntine? And do you think that I think if you were to walk up to me and just put a gun to my head and tell me which one of these guys do you want, I still think I say Turntine. But I think that Ojo probably has more upside, and I'm starting to kind of come around to it. But it's gonna be hard to get me off turn time. I mean, that's a guy that I thought Texas needed to land and needed to make a priority for a really long time. He's a good player, dude. Heavy hands, moves people.
Yeah.
Are already, you know, uh, just a guy that I just didn't think we were going to get this kind of fly in the ointment of a Felix Ojo. And like, if Flood's saying that he's the top priority, like he does, he knows that's going to get out there.
I first I want to say I misspoke a minute ago. I said Kyson Henderson was committed to SMU. He's committed to Houston, so it's my bad. He's also not Catch's top ranked. So
Okay.
I misspeak on that both. As far as the tackles go, getting
so you take it back on both counts.
on both counts. I butchered both. But as far as getting Ojo and Turntine or either or, and also to your question of upside and potential, I think when you ask it that way, upside and potential, I think I'm going to go towards the Ojo side because, again, the listing is 6'7", 279. The listing for Turntine is 6'4", 317.
I'm not sure Turntine is 6'4".
I've never seen both in person. Like you just said, you don't think Turntine's 6'4".
Well, it's just if you've seen some photos of him standing next to some of these coaches, you can like do the math.
I don't know if he's 317 either when you look at those pictures. But when you talk about upside and potential, I go to like lengths, right? We talked about Carson Vincent, the offensive tackle from Alabama A&M from the Senior Bowl this weekend. The one thing I finally heard someone talk about it was Todd McShay. He goes, the one thing that scouts talked about was the one difference maker. The one thing he has that is a complete outlier to everybody else is the wingspan and the length, the arm.
McShay finally talked about Carson.
Finally. He finally said this, Alex. He goes,
was this on the day 3 recap from last week?
This was on the day 3 recap. I just listened to it this morning. He finally said, I talked to somebody today and they don't think that Carson Vincent's going to get out of day 2. And I'm like, all right, well, my mock's done. I got him at like 30, I think, to Philly. So like, that's where I'm going to put him there for as long as whatever. Doesn't matter. The point is, he said that the scouts say that Vincent has the one thing. He's also got these other things too, like his mentals, all whatever. He's athletic. But the one thing that differentiated was his length and his arms. And when you look at Ojo versus Turntine, you just said it. Like, it's length, it's arms, it's navigability. I think they're both good in that. But I think Felix you talk about upside and potential. I think Felix outdoes him a little bit. I still want Turntine. I don't think that, I think we're literally like this, right? We're side by side in the whole conversation. You said, is it possible to get 2 guys that are 5 stars? Go back to 2023. Miami got Francis Mauiga and Samson Akunalolo, both in the top 4. Georgia got 2 tackles, both in the top 6. Bama got 2 tackles, both in the top 7, that 2023 class. 2024, I think it was Georgia got 2 guys in the top 10. That was the same year that Baker was second overall. And then last year, Notre Dame had, I think, 2, but they weren't both in the top 10. Georgia had 2 guys in the top 12. Bama had 2 in the top 10. So getting 2 tackles in the same class
up in the top 5
it can happen. I mean, like I said, Miami did it 2 years ago. Georgia did it. You got it's also Zayden Krempin. What about Zayden Krempin?
Yeah.
Well, and there's a note about Zayden Krempin in the rumor mill that came out today. And, Jason posted about him coming out of the junior day. And Zayden Krempin,
he's Texas's top of mind for that guy.
Yeah.
He's always talking about Texas first.
Yeah. And he's 6'5", 275 from Prosper. He's talked about Jake Majors. He's that's where Jake Majors went to school. And he's the 16th ranked tackle in the country and no slouch as a 4-star. But it's a good group of tackles in the class. I think the question maybe isn't, can Texas get 2 5-stars? It's can Texas get 2 strong, offensive tackles? Like, if they can get one of Ojo and Turntine and a Krempin, they're also going after this Lamar Brown kid, which is the number 1 guard in the country right now, who's out of Louisiana. So it's like, think about that. If you were able to get, let's, for example, say you get Turntine, you get Krempin, and you get Lamar Brown, who's the number 1 guard in the country. That is an elite.
Where'd you say Lamar Brown is from? I haven't even watched him yet.
Lamar Brown is from Baton Rouge. 6'5", 292. So you're literally going into their backyard and taking him. But they were there last week visiting him. So it's a hypothetical again. I'm just saying. But if you were able to, I think this whole entire thing is like Texas needs offensive line in this class badly. They need to have a big class. Flood needs to have a big class. And yes, I think it would be ideal to get both Ojo and Turntine. But do I think it's realistic? Probably not. It's probably more realistic that you get one of those two guys plus a Crimpin and maybe a guard or a center somewhere.
Well, so what if you could have four to choose from? What if let's just say this, and I think that we can make this happen if you have four to choose from. You can choose either um, let's see, we have Cowboy Blend. We have what is it? We have the we have the jalapeno garlic. We have the hot honey now is the new one, and we have the smoked garlic. Of course, we're talking about the Football with Friends beef jerky at Texas Beef Traders. You have your choice of four. It isn't like Texas where they're having to choose between Felix Ojo or John Turntine. You can have whatever you want. You can order all four packs. I'll go ahead and put a link to it in there's a QR code there. Oh, you already did that, Cody? Okay, so make sure and go get some Football with Friends beef jerky over there. Of course, it comes from Texas Beef Traders. It's cut all right from the sirloin. I had some meetings with Darren just this week. He's like, dude, we're talking about the money on it and the margins. And he's like, well, we could give up less meat in there. I'm like, no. We're not going to do that. This is a jam-packed bag of meat. It's delicious sirloin steak. Of course, there's no vaccines, no antibiotics, no weird steroids, no anything. It's straight from Mason, Texas, right to your doorstep, anywhere in the lower 48. Help us out. Go order some beef jerky. We have a new product line that's going to be coming out really soon, but we're really proud of these 4 flavors of beef jerky. So go check them out. There's the QR code right there, and make sure to check out Texas Beef Traders just in general, right? Texas Beef Traders right there off Loman's Crossing in the heart of Lake, where you get 10% off your order there in the store by just going in. If you go in, you'll have a great time with Darren. He's going to cook you up some meat if you want and you have time to sit back, have a beer, have some wine. There's a freaking winery in the place. You know what I mean? So go check it out. Get some hors d'oeuvres. Get some 10% off your meat. It's going to be cheaper than the grocery store. And if you can't make it into Texas Beef Traders, just call up there, talk to Darren, put in an order, get 10% off. If you live in the Austin area, he'll just bring it to your house. Okay? Texas Beef Traders, TexasBeefTraders.com. I'm going to put this beef jerky QR code right up there so we can have it up. You can scan that to go get the beef jerky throughout the show. Anything else on the whole offensive line thing, or do you want to move on to the next topic, Cody?
Well, I think just in general, you can scroll through and some of the guys that they've had for visits, like there's a lot of 4 and 5 star guard and tackles in the class. So, Drew Evers was another one that was posted up on the board today about Drew Evers from, oh boy, what did I just miss where he's from? I just emptied on it. His brother played quarterback for Connecticut. Flowermount, 4-star interior offensive lineman. He's 6'4", 302. He's another offensive lineman just inside the state of Texas, right? Maximus Wright, another tackle inside the state of Texas, 6'8", 300 pounds. There's a lot of tackles and guards this year, specifically that are 4-star and up. It's a perfect time for Texas to focus in on it. They need some offensive linemen. I can't remember where the conversation was at. If you think about it, it's over on the board about getting like 6 guys in this class, 6 offensive linemen. I thought that number was a bit high. But
they could use 6.
Yeah,
but they need 5.
It seems that, but like when you look at this group, it's like, okay, so let's say you get Evers, you get Turntine, you get Nicholas Robertson, you get Crimpin. That's 4. That's 4 really good offensive linemen. And then you maybe get like, a 3-star or whatever here or there, somebody else to backfill. That's a good 4, right? But I think that more so what I'm trying to rationalize is that I feel like it's highly unlikely. Getting Ojo, Turntine, and Crimpin, 3 tackles, would be like getting DeCorian Moore, Lockett, and French.
It just it's like and the whole thing we said with that before, going back to August or whatever, it's just like maybe Texas's chance of getting each one of these is good, but the chance to landing all, you're not going to land all of them.
Yep.
Texas did a real good job real good job to land the receivers that they did this season for sure. And I think we're going to see a lot of those guys next year. All right, a couple of other things we wanted to get here. Can we just talk about this? About the coaches with the Matt Rule thing. Coaches are slowly rolling out the idea they don't want to play spring games. I have thoughts. Do you have what are your thoughts on this?
I get it.
I get it too. But so what Matt Rule has said today is he's like, dude, he's like this isn't even tampering. This is like beyond tampering. What's going on? And he said, why would I put out a game for every other personnel team, every other personnel office across all the sport to look at and say, man, that guy looks good, and like he was playing with the second or the third team. Like, let's call him up. There's about to be a portal window that opens. We, like the spring portal stuff, like why not see if this guy wants to hop in the portal? We need a left guard. He's not going to play for them. You know what I mean? Like, it's like we have $400K we can throw his way. He's probably not making that. It does, like, it gives other teams tape. I totally get it. Here, I also understand it from my own personal feelings on it. Like, I would be tilted if I couldn't watch a spring game. I think a lot of fans would be a little bit tilted that they couldn't watch a spring game. Just see, you got to have something to wet your beak, man. And during this long time between the end of the season and, fall camp, right? You want to see, like, you want to have something to talk about. You want to say, like, oh, well, this guy was lining up at guard during spring ball. I wonder if they're going to move him to tackle later, and we'll still have some of that because we'll have some open practices and things like that. But then there's like the athletic directors who are going to – I don't think spring games are a huge moneymaker for these athletic departments because they don't really sell tickets to them and stuff.
Well, Nebraska had north of 60,000.
Right. So, they're definitely selling a bunch of concessions, right? And they're doing all that stuff and parking.
I think Nebraska charged, though, to go to their game.
I don't think Texas charges for the spring game. I think you just walk in that thing. I could be wrong. Maybe you got to pay. I don't remember it. Like, I go to I don't think I've paid. I just walk in.
Nebraska stands to lose around $600,000 in ticket sales from canceling the spring game.
Okay, so there's that. There's parking. There's and then there's also some of these spring games have like network affiliations, right? Where you get the network money. So it's like the network wants it. Are you telling me that some kind of ESPN entity is not going to want to have Arch Manning in April, during the dead period of the doldrums of the football offseason? They're not going to want to have that.
Yep.
So, like, I can understand it from that angle. I can also understand it from the angle of, like, dude, I was talking to somebody close to the team today, and he's like, this was the same dude who was telling me back in like December and then again in January. He's like, dude, Sark wants to do like OTAs and stuff. He didn't want to do a spring game. He wants to have this stuff mirror the NFL. And I'm like, well, how would that work with the NCAA calendar? And, when can you practice, when you can't, all this stuff like that. And this guy's like, who cares about the NCAA, which I totally agree with. Right. But this has been something that's been on Sark's mind for a long time too. I don't know if the angle has really been on his end. Like, I just don't want guys coming in and poaching my dudes or seeing what I'm doing or the rest of the stuff like that. I think these guys, I think his angle was just like, it's better. Dude, these guys just got what they're playing 16, 17. Like, that's another thing this guy was saying. He's like, dude, at the very least, you're going to start seeing dudes at least sit out, like opt out of spring football. He's like, you got fall camp and you play all the way till the end of January and they expect you to turn around and play in 2 more months.
Yep.
Like, he's like, winter conditioning is one thing, right? The summer workouts once you come back in June are one thing, right? But you get into fall camp, but that's hard hitting stuff. And then all the way through the season, man, these guys are banged up. They're banged. There's a bunch of guys on this team that have injuries that like we don't even really know about it. That we've reported some. We talked about the Ant Hill stuff and Biunga Lafau and some of these other guys that have just things that they're nursing, right? But the you look at the Senior Bowl, and out of like this was like 30 guys between the Final Four teams that were invited almost. How many showed up? 3?
A bunch of them left. Yeah, a bunch of them.
Sorrell showed up. Kaiser from Notre Dame showed up. Riley Leonard from Notre Dame showed up. I don't remember a Penn State guy there.
Penn State did they have one offensive lineman at the Shrine?
Okay. All right. And
that was
any Ohio State guys that you can even remember?
Not at the Shrine Bowl, no.
Am I totally blanking on the Senior Bowl? Am I being an idiot and forgetting an Ohio State player?
I don't think an Ohio State player was at the Senior Bowl.
So, like, these guys,
they all opted out except from the championship game. They all opted out except for Leonard. Mitchell Evans, the tight end from Notre Dame, went to the Shrine Bowl, practiced for a day, and then left because he was fatigued.
Okay. So it's like this we're going to start seeing guys sit out of spring ball. They are. I mean, I'm getting that sentiment from like we're going to start seeing it, and it's just like so. This to me, this is easily fixed. I think, right? I think you can have your spring game if you just do what needs to be done anyway. It's so messed up, dude. It's like, Cody, how many times do we hear Lane Kiffin on those coaching conference calls, right? Where he just talks about all these unintended consequences of these reactionary policies from the powers that be in college football.
Yep.
With saying like, oh, well, we need this to happen because of NIL and transfer portal. Like, let's just open a window here. Like, the calendar be darned, right? Like, the rest of how the calendar fits together, who cares? Like, who cares that school's already started when by the time that this portal window closes because we've had this 5 extra days for the playoff. We need to keep the playoff. That's the cash cow. Like, that's the golden goose. Like, there's all this stuff that doesn't align as far as the college football calendar. And you hear these coaches talking about how there's all these unintended consequences of the different portal times, right? Times that you can declare for the NFL draft. There's that whole melee with the National Signing Day and the visits and things like that occur during the conference championships. And then, during the time where the winners of the conference or just the teams in the college football playoff, they got 10 days to get ready for a game and the other teams are out recruiting and they don't have anything else to do. It's like, it's badly put together. And if they can just fix this, and maybe to a larger degree, dude, just fix the way maybe NIL needs to be kind of fixed. I know that's way off the reservation. And no one wants to talk about it, but and the last thing I want to do is go in and regulate stuff like that. I don't want to do that, but like it needs to get fixed, right? I don't think you need to just get rid of. I think spring games are cool, man. I love it I love in the spring getting to watch watching Oklahoma spring game or watching. Do you know what I mean? I think spring games are cool. I think it's a fun part of college football. I do think people will start sitting out. I think we're trending towards more of an OTA kind of thing, but I do think. On Rule's part, I totally understand it, but it isn't he doing something that's a little bit reactionary that could have the same kind of unintended consequences that the college football powers that be created whenever they instated all of this new stuff?
I think it's natural that this was bound to happen when you extend the season, create a longer schedule, more games. I was listening to Josh Pate. He said that there's already teams that haven't announced it, haven't made a big deal of it, that they're just straight up not having them already. But that didn't make big news because Matt Rule came out and said it. I think you talked about the NIL side of things. That just needs to get fixed in general. Wouldn't be so. I mean, there's just so much. I think that the overarching thing here is there's just so much, Alex, and we've talked about it and beat it like a dead horse and just beat it and beat it and beat it, that there's so much that needs to still be fixed. And like in 5 years, we'll look back and be like, I cannot believe that we went through football seasons and years like that. And you'll be looking back at 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026. And in 5 years, you'll be looking back at it like, wow, because you could be looking at no bowl games. You could be looking at preseason games in, the first weeks of August. And then they're starting the season in, a week earlier in August. And there's no spring game and there's OTAs and there's only one portal window and all this crap that works together to help create a schedule like in the NFL. There's just so much that, this is a 10-hour conversation that could be had, but I think it's the right path. I think rules in the NFL for a couple of years as well. So, right, Rule has that vibe. And of course it's, he lays on the I don't want my guys to get poached thing. But like I told you, and like I put in the war room, the tackle Brendan Crenshaw Dixon from San Diego State, his agent was like, "Yo, go to the portal. You're gonna get $100,000, and there's nobody that wants you right now. But I guarantee you get $100,000." And he just gets in the portal and gets 700,000. Like there's always gonna be that. So it's like the guy that's sitting behind you at Nebraska, the tackle that's sitting behind the starting tackle at Nebraska that's asked, can you wait a year before you play? If he's got an agent and he's got a name and there's somebody out there that needs somebody and the agent knows that somebody needs somebody, they're going to get him into the portal regardless. It's just going to keep the inevitable in the pocket, right? It's only going to keep the inevitable thing. It's going to delay it a little bit longer, or it may save a player from jumping in the portal in the spring that will probably end up going in December anyway, next year, for whatever reason, right? I get it from rules perspective, but I just think there's so much that goes into this whole thing that does that even make sense? I think there's just so
No,
much,
I mean, I
so many
understand.
other parts to this whole puzzle that like I'm not going to latch on to this, but I get it.
I understand what you said about, if a guy's going to portal out in the spring, he's probably going to end up portaling out anyway.
Yeah.
It's like my dad, my dad, God rest his soul, but he would say, I've talked about him before, but he was a recruiter, right? He would recruit executives to like leave their jobs and go to another company that was hiring for like a CEO of a company or something. He called other companies in that industry, and he would try and talk to the CEO. He's like, hey, would you be interested in hearing about a job, right? And he would tell him that one of the things that he had to always coach on, because you as a recruiter, he was a contingency recruiter, right? So he didn't get paid until that person took the job, right? And when that person took the job and he was there for 3 months, then he would get an amount from, not from the candidate, but from the company that hired him, which was like 30% of his first year's salary, right? So like like if you're giving somebody a $250,000 job, that's like, you're getting what, the $75,000 on that deal? Like that's a big deal, right? You can't screw. So all this stuff you have to do with deal tending, and one of the things was always coaching about counter offers, right? From your old company, right? Because that was the last thing he wanted, right? For like him go from this hospital, this other hospital, St. David's comes back and says, look, we don't want you to leave. We'll give you what they're giving you, and we'll give you another bonus. And my dad had to have a retort for that. He's like, look, for counter offers, you have to understand that for after I forgot what the stat that you always use, but it's like 80% of the time after a counter offer, you're gone within a year because you're now a fidelity risk. Like they see you as somebody that was willing to leave, right? And so I guess the reason I bring up the story is that you just want to tell, if somebody's got a foot out the door and they're interested in exploring other opportunities and stuff, they're gonna end up leaving, whether it's like the powers that be kind of push them away, or whether they just kind of end up wanting to leave on their own, right? Once you become a fidelity risk, you tend to stay a fidelity risk at your current place. So I can understand that. I can understand it from that angle. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to fix it. It's so multifaceted. I just hope that, man, I don't think Texas this year will be able to get rid of the spring game, but it feels like that I mean, it's now officially out there, and we've heard it from Sark that he doesn't like this stuff, and he wants to make it more like OTAs. And now that it's out there, and now that's kind of out in the public, and Matt Rule has brought it to the public, and the conversation is being had, it's going to be
What?
less.
Why do you say you don't think that they could get rid of it this year? Because of Arch? Because it's too much pressure from the
No, no. I think that probably this year, maybe the contracts for the various vendors and things like that probably have already had to get done. We're only 2 months out.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, like, these decisions are made further in advance. So it's like this could already be done. Like I said, Pate said on his show that there's other teams that have already said they're not having games, but they're not public knowledge. And they haven't come out and said anything loudmouthed like Matt Rule has. He's come out and publicly said it. He said there's other teams that haven't even said anything, but they're just not having them. And this is a known thing on the inside. So
Maybe.
but I think that the thing you brought up there with, like, I do think the Arch factor is big media is going to be a pressure on that, and especially in markets like that where it's like well-known team, like the defending Ohio State, the defending national champions. What are the odds? They don't have a spring game. Seems tough, but they also just played a 16-game season.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix it. Do you know what I'd actually do to fix it? I would go over to Specs. They're having a giant wine sale right now. Just go buy some wine, drink it. Maybe that'll give you some inspiration.
With hundreds of wines on sale, Specs is turning these aisles into the ultimate love story.
Uncork something special during Specs' huge wine sale, going on now. Specs, the fun starts here.
Thanks so much to Specs for being a great sponsor here. There's over 600 of you guys watching between X and YouTube and joining us here on the Specs chat line. We know that most of you guys are going to be watching this on Tuesday morning, so thanks to you guys, but thanks to everybody here in the chat for being here as well. And if you have questions you want us to get to specifically, make sure and hit us in the super chats, and we will get to those as soon as you post them. All right, so spring game, pretty tilted. Right. This is one. So this is one that you put in. Let me read it. Baronsville had a great week in Mobile and won best defensive end on his team, best defensive lineman on the team. Right.
I don't remember the way of this phrase.
It was the D lineman.
Yeah.
Are we on the same page that Shamar Stewart and Mike Green were better, but non-qualifiers for the award? Yes. Yeah. So Shamar Stewart. I thought Shamar Stewart was the practice MVP, even though he only practiced for 2 days.
That's what we listed him as at roster watch. I mean, he was dominant, left early, which we see. Mike Green had dominance flashes at edge against first-round talents at offensive tackle. Sorrell, I thought, had a good week building every single day, but I didn't think he was going to be team defensive line MVP. But I saw people talking about it on the board, and I was like, they're not qualifiers because they left early. But I think Barron, he should get flowers for having a great week, but it wasn't quite to the level of these likely first round picks, Mike Green and Shamar Stewart.
Well, I like I was saying on the board when they said like Barron's had a week, I'm just like, dude, like, good for him. I'm honestly a little bit surprised about that.
Yep.
But good for him. He had a, like we're talking, we were live at the Senior Bowl, just like we'll be live at the Combine here in a few weeks. And we won't have so many interruptions there during Combine week. We'll actually be there for we'll be live for 4 of the 5 days there. But we talked about him on Wednesday. Was that Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday after practice, whenever they singled him out. They don't single those guys out for those killer reps at the end of practice unless those are the guys that have been balling out during the day of practice. I mean, he had a good week. But dude, Shamar Stewart was that guy's just he's going to be a game wrecker. My one thing about him is, though, his college production, when you look at it, wasn't really that good. He only had like 1.5 sacks last season. How's that possible?
Each of the last 2 seasons, only 1.5 sacks.
How's that possible?
I think
whenever he's just like dominating out there, he's so disruptive. Like, I don't understand.
Well, I think Scorton, the other edge rusher, he had 10 sacks. Obviously, that was at Purdue, and then he went to A&M and had 5. And then I think Shamar Turner was also a rather statistical. He had 2 sacks this year, 6 sacks last year.
It's not great, dude. But I mean, Stewart. To me, it's like there wasn't. And for people wondering, is like the reason they're non-qualifiers is because Shamar Stewart and Mike Green looked so good in the first 2 days that they just left. Right? They don't give the practice week MVPs to you if you leave. So, yeah, but hey, good for Barron Sorrell. He made his money. We talked about it. Cody and I think that he might have worked his way into the day 2 kind of conversation. I think he could be now. I think he could be a 3rd round pick. Sort of viewed him as somebody that was more of a 5th round pick to start the week. So good for Barron Sorrell. All right, let's see, what else do we have here? You know what? Do you know what else? Do you know what else we have here that we haven't really talked about too much? Is myperfectfranchise.net. Andy Ludecky. I mean, are you ready to make a big change in your life as far as just your job? Are you looking to make some passive income? Have you ever thought about a franchise? Have you ever thought, man, I could have a a house painting business, or I could. Andy, do you know what Andy Ludecky? He's so rich. Look at that's the face of a rich man. Do you know what he does? All he does is he has people take big trash containers to like job sites, and he just takes away the trash. Big red dumpsters. He's like a millionaire from this thing. But that's not all he's done. He's done this stuff in home health. He's done a million different things. He knows the pitfalls. He knows the areas that need certain types of franchises, and that's why you can get in contact with him. He can answer all your questions about the initial investments to get in. It's perfect for people that are looking to get out of the corporate rat race, or just if you're retired, maybe just a way to put your money to work for some really, really good side income. Andy Ludecky at myperfectfranchise.net is who you call, and he's like I said, take it from a guy that's really rich who's just done this. Cody, would you agree? Andy, great guy to talk to, great guy to hang out, huge Texas Longhorns fan, but most importantly, just very, very rich.
Very, very, very rich, great guy, big Texas Longhorn fan. We watched the Ole Miss game with him over a very beautiful filet mignon.
Yep. Delicious filet mignon. Okay, so myperfectfranchise.net. Make sure and go check it out. Couple more topics to get here. I wanted to ask you what you thought about this guy. So Texas hired Josh Dunson. So he was the Memphis recruiting director. We don't know exactly what his role is at Texas. Last I checked, Texas hadn't sent out an email about this yet. What is this that Byron just sent me about Cooper Kupp? He's not retiring, is he?
No, he said that the Rams let him know that he's going to be traded.
I mean,
we expected it earlier this year before the trade deadline, before they beat the Vikings, and then they went on a little bit of a run there. Like that was kind of expected, right? So,
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think probably so. But gosh, man, hurts, man. The original kind of Senior Bowl golden son of roster watch, man, Cooper Kupp. You feel old, man, when all these guys it's like Aaron Donald's retired now and Zach Martin's retired. These guys that we saw at the Senior Bowl, it's hard. All right, well, best. So anyway, I was looking at it earlier. So this guy comes in from Memphis, and dude, Memphis for Memphis standards, dude, they had a recruiting class this last year. They had a 4-star quarterback from Georgia, Antoine Hill. And you just look at some of these, you look down what Memphis did this last year. So Georgia, North Richlands Hills, Texas, Pensacola, Florida, Cartersville, Georgia, Buford, Georgia, Pearland, Shadow Creek, Alpharetta, Georgia, Madison, Mississippi, Scuba, Mississippi, Dallas, Georgia, Jacksonville, Florida, North Carolina, Ellenwood, Georgia. This guy recruits Georgia and the Florida Panhandle and Alabama and Mississippi, Cody. Memphis had the best recruiting class in their conference, and this dude, I don't know what his job is going to be because you have Taylor Searles is technically their director, right? And then you have Brandon Harris that just got his extension with the GM stuff, one of the highest paid GMs. Now, I think J.M. Jones is still some kind of director, some kind of personnel director. So I don't know what this guy's role is going to be, but he left a recruiting director job to take this job at Texas.
Five minutes ago, he posted on LinkedIn that his title is Senior Player Personnel Coordinator. Literally 5 minutes ago.
Okay. So Senior Player Personnel Coordinator. I wonder, I guess it's kind of, you can hire as many as you want. Why not hire a guy that doesn't he look kind of young and energetic on his LinkedIn? What is his background besides Memphis?
Recruiting specialist at Georgia Tech for a year. And then some project manager for something else, non-football related. But he graduated from Georgia State in 2021. So
he's a Georgia guy.
Mad young. Yeah.
He got all those Georgia guys to Memphis. Now Georgia to Memphis is a little bit of an easier regional sell, right? Than Georgia to Texas. But with Texas is Texas. It isn't Memphis.
Well, his base is also Atlanta. Like that's his home contact place is Atlanta. So, I mean, here's the thing, man. All the lines we're tying together from all these different places. Who's Texas's number one threat in the SEC right now? Georgia. Who they just go into the backyard and get with the first-year defensive line coach Kenny Baker, Justice Terry from Georgia. Now they go out and get this guy who recruits Georgia very well. A lot of guys on the recruiting list this year that we know they have interest in from Georgia. What better way than, I mean, everybody goes into Texas and tries to get guys because Texas is a well-oiled recruiting machine like California and Florida. Georgia's pretty good as well, but I don't think it's poached, I would say, as much as the Texas or Florida or California is, right? So why not go right back into their backyard and take some of their best players?
That's it. Dude, it's exciting development, man. This guy's young. He's a rising star. Like he was just in he's probably one of these guys who was just he's probably on message boards and stuff, and he's like good at this stuff, and he's got a job at Georgia. What'd you say, Georgia State?
Where did he start? Well, that's where he went to school. He went to school at Georgia State. So he went to school at Georgia State, got a business administration and management degree, graduated in 2021.
Oh, he's super young. Okay.
Got a job with Georgia Tech for a year as a recruiting specialist, became the director of recruiting a year ago right now for Memphis. And now a year later, he's at Texas.
Some of this stuff, Cody, like there's this stuff, whereas there's a part of this stuff, I think the GM stuff now, it doesn't need to be a young man's game the way that the recruiting coordinator needs to be a young man's game a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And you just think about guys that come through here like Carrington. It's like a lot of the time, this is kind of young man's game. And I don't know if it's just because it's easier for them to relate to guys, or the energy is just different, or kind of what it is, right? But some of these, it's like how everybody used to think about like Rashad Samples. It's I just think it's an excellent. I don't know much about the guy. I'm sure we'll get to meet him. They won't give us media availabilities or anything, but we'll be able to bump into him and get to kind of know him. So I'm not saying like personally, I think he's a great guy or anything, but I think this kind of hire, sandwich him in there with all the, with the Brandon Harris of the world, who's like these GM responsibilities and stuff are going to be different now. The director of recruiting, it's going to be a little bit different now than being the guy that is the one that all the players kind of love to bro out with whenever they're there on campus, or whenever they're kind of chilling and want to talk to some rep from the school on FaceTime. So very, very, very good stuff there. Do you want to get to one more? Do you want to save some of these topics for tomorrow? I guess we probably could get to one more of these.
I want to ask this one because I tapped into House Divided for a little bit today, and one of the buy or sells that Catch asked to Chad was about like positionally, if you had like 5 spots or 5, if you had 5 5 players to add during the spring portal. What positions would you go to? And he put defensive line on the list. And it wasn't the first time. I think I heard it on the morning show too. Defensive line in the portal. And I wanted to ask you, Ketch just floating the idea out there of Texas still needing one more defensive lineman. They have Travis Shaw. They have Cole Brevard. They have Hero Canoe. That's 3. They have Alex January. They got the freshman in Justice Terry. We compared these 5 guys to last year's group of 4. Does Texas really need one more defensive lineman? Or, I mean, I don't think that should be a point of focus right now.
Well, you also have there's 2, and then there's also, I mean, I don't really know, but there's also some depth, right?
Yeah, you got Sharma, you got Charles, like you got Melvin Hills,
Yeah. So I don't think it's completely. I mean, you know how I am about this stuff. I'm a trenches absolutist. If they'd wanted one, I wouldn't care. But as it is right now, I'm almost finished doing my film work on Travis Shaw from North Carolina. Maybe we can put him on the cover tomorrow because I have a lot of thoughts about Travis Shaw. Kind of more thoughts about Travis Shaw than I do about Cole Brevard almost. And I don't know. We'll just talk about him tomorrow. But you gotta, dude. That's like an elite 5-star national talent. And if you look at the guys that he was playing with on that team, number 98, number 6, number 5, all these guys were going to be like, they were all like graduate, like seniors. You know, they've been there. He was set up like, I don't know why he left. You know what I mean? And like it could be a mix of a bunch. It could be Belichick. It could be he just wanted to make more money, you know. But he was set up in the catbird seat to be their big like hellion in the middle next year, you know. And then we've talked about Brevard, but I think that he's good. I don't think he plays 60% of snaps like he did at Purdue. Yeah. Don't think you need him to. I think Justice Terry's awesome. I think Alex January needs to improve, but he's certainly got an awesome body and frame. Just not productive last season on his limited snaps.
Yep.
Canoe, I still have to watch, and I'm going to do him next, even though it's going to be much harder to. The only games he really played in were these games where we don't have any all-22s, and I'm not going to be able to find anything on YouTube with Ohio State versus Towson or these other whatever it was that he played in this year, but. We've already I don't know who starts or whatever, but I don't know how to put the depth chart together. Like we're not I don't think we're in a deficit right now. I'm not saying I think that Texas has maybe what Ketch says is just Texas always needs to have a total defensive tackle surplus.
Well, here, I know we're going to get out of here in a minute, but I'll just roll right into this. Buy or sell, the 2 biggest needs right now are center and tight end. And you probably say tackle potentially in that group or guard if you wanted to, right? I don't even think about
interior, like two interior offensive line guys.
I don't even think about defensive tackle until 6. Center, guard, tackle, tight end, receiver.
And no one talks about running back. It's like as if all these guys are going to come back totally healthy.
That's true. That too.
I don't understand why nobody people like Wisner, I get it. But I think they could use, some kind of it'd be awesome to find some kind of Matthew Golden of the running back position. You know what I mean? To be able to come in and, dude, watching Travis Shaw today, Cody, and one of the games wasn't all 22 versus NC State, so I was just watching it on YouTube, just kind of, and I had to click the L, to get through offense. Yeah. And I just started seeing number 28, Omarion Hampton.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I have to watch the offense too, because this guy's an obliterator. He is something else. He'd be number 1 running back in any other class that doesn't have Ashton Genty. Maybe he would have been number 1 in the year of Gibbs and Bijan, but we would have been talking about him for sure. He'd been clear number 1, just a cinch last year. Yeah, but yeah, no, I think that I think that with the offensive line, if Ketch I don't think that the interior defensive line is operating at deficit levels right now. But I think that they're right where they need to be, and I could understand somebody wanting to tip off the reserves with some surplus. Like a defensive line, you can never have enough.
That's true.
But I don't think I think they've done a really good job. I think they've brought in 3 guys that look like pretty good. It was a giant need, but they brought in 3. It's been the biggest focus in all of the transfer portal.
I'll be honest, none of the 3 that they currently have on the roster seem like a Trill / Savea.
No. Well, I don't know. I still got to watch Hero, but I I don't think Shaw looks like that, and I don't think Brevard looks like that. Are there things that both of those guys need to work on? Yes, but both of them are ascending. And we had homeboy from Imbow, the guard from Purdue, telling us this guy, like, dude, Texas fans are about to find out about Cole Brevard. That guy, he says that guy has improved to SH, you know what ton. He's like, that guy's worked his tail off, man. He's improved at S ton. You guys are like, wait till you see him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. Now, you can email us, fwfemails@gmail.com. You can find me on X at Alex Dunlap NFL. You can find Cody at Cody Carpentier. So happy to be with you guys here today. Again, just a quick reminder, we are here every day, 6 to 7 p.m. Central Time, all season long, man. We're here talking about the Longhorns and talking about college football and the NFL and the draft and all the, we're recruiting, all the stuff that we love. And if you're into that, we just appreciate you letting your friends know. We appreciate you coming back. We appreciate the people who are here live on the Specs chat line. We appreciate our great sponsors, Poncho Outdoors, MyPerfectFranchise.net, Texas Beef Traders, and of course, Specs, Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods. If you are interested in sponsoring the show, you can always get in contact with Sonny Nelson. I think this is so you can advertise your business to thousands of Longhorn fans. These shows, by this time tomorrow, this show will probably have 7,500, 10,000 views, and we do that every single day. So you can email her, Sonny Nelson at orangebloods.com. Phone number 512-924-4038. She's super easy to work with, super fun to work with, and she will be able to kind of tell you what we have going on here and ways that we can help your business with a title sponsorship of this show. So give Sonny Nelson a call. All right. Thank you, guys. Like the show. Subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends. But most importantly, come back and watch. We're here every night. All right? Love you guys. Thank you for being here. God bless you. For Cody, I'm Alex. We're done.